Why I have two smartwatches. This is the Garmin Fenix 6S Pro and this is the Galaxy Watch 4 by Samsung. I first had a Galaxy Fit, then I upgraded to the Galaxy Active 2, already a smartwatch, but this now has LTE. This means I can call people. I usually don't, because I usually use my phone. But just in case I don't want to use my phone somewhere, or don't want to bring my phone somewhere, then I still, if someone has a heart attack, can call people or emergency services with this watch here. It also is a smartwatch that ties in with the Samsung Galaxy ecosystem, which I am kind of invested in. So it has a calendar app, it has Samsung Pay, which you then can use to pay actually somewhere. Garmin has also Garmin Pay, but since it doesn't have data on it, it only allows you to pay when you have your phone connected to it. So you might as well be able to pay with your phone then. But the Galaxy Watch's activity tracking was not that good. So I eventually got the Fenix 6S Pro in order to upgrade my sports and activity tracking. And this was obviously quite a non-usual decision, because who has two smartwatches on their two hands? But the Garmin, apart from one model like the Forerunner 945, does not have LTE or calling functionality. So if you have a Garmin, but you also do want an additional phone on your wrist, then you have to have two watches. But I did kind of want something that would track at least my HRV and values like these, like give me a recovery score. The Samsung Health app or the Galaxy Watch does not. So after a workout, apart from the calories, I don't really know, apart from the length obviously and the calories, I don't really know what I should improve. Did I do well this time? What if I do want to log my effort, for example? And so these things and so many other things are possible with the Garmin ecosystem. In there, it shows me after a workout, a VO2 Max workout yesterday I did, for example, that I had 36 hours of recovery time. It also shows me my HRV scores. It also shows me how fast I would be able to run if I would run now a 5K, for example. And as this value changes over time, I can actually then gauge, what's the proper word here? I don't know. My fitness, depending on this metric. So if instead of currently 22 minutes and 43 seconds for the 5K, I would be predicted to run 30 minutes for the 5K, then obviously I probably am not as fit. Apart from the activity tracking, the Garmin otherwise is a pretty dumb watch, you could say. You can load music onto it, you can even use Spotify, but I just didn't find this to be useful. Initially, I thought this was a good idea to then be able to listen on a watch on the offline tracks with a watch that doesn't need internet to actually play back Spotify, compared to the Samsung Galaxy Watch, which then references the Spotify catalog somehow and then just loads for 20 seconds or something like this. In addition, the Garmin just has buttons. This is not even a touchscreen. So the Garmin has 5 different buttons, and these 5 different buttons do all the things. So you can press a button and it actually does something. So it goes up and down and up and down. Whereas on the Galaxy Watch, I often find myself rotating the bezel and then trying to do something, or just not doing something at all because it's already empty again. I got actually the battery replaced because after a year the battery was just not usable anymore. It lasted for a few hours. I couldn't even track my sleep properly without charging the watch 3 times a day. The Garmin lasts 2 days. This is also an older watch, so this is a refurbished watch, so it ideally would last longer than this, and I also could get the battery replaced. The battery replacement on the Galaxy Watch apparently even was within the warranty. And one thing I use ridiculously often is the training status. I already told you about this. So the training status means, or shows you how productive you are or how unproductive you are. It also shows you how fast you are on the 5K, for example, or how your VO2 Max actually looks like. In the Galaxy or Samsung ecosystem, it only shows you your VO2 Max if you ran the distance, but it doesn't give you a metric for it. So it only shows it as an additional metric when it comes to running, but you cannot look it up, basically. You don't also have graphs. In addition, what is also a big factor, or was a big deciding factor for the Garmin, is that Garmin has a web interface. So I can look at all these values on the web, whereas the Samsung is completely tied to an Android app or maybe an iOS app. So whenever I want to take screenshots, for example, for a post or for myself, for documentation, I have to have my phone. But I try to get kind of rid of being reliant on my phone, too much during the day, because it kind of sucks my attention into it. So here we can now actually see the training status. That before was not the training status, it was just the different things that were on my widgets basically. So it shows me the current load. The current load is basically over the last 7 days how much workout load you did, you could say. And then we also have other things like what is currently your load focus? Is it high in anaerobic activity or in aerobic activity? Then we also have VO2 max. Then we also have the age of wheat status, and we also have the recovery time. And recently, when going to the sauna more and more, but also it got summer, there is actually there's appeared something that was called heat acclimation. And heat acclimation is just how acclimated you are to the heat. Things like these really confirmed my decision to finally kind of go with not with Samsung any longer, but to try Garmin out. And I am now still synchronizing the activities to Samsung because I still have a few metrics I only can track in Samsung. For example, Samsung can track ECG, Samsung can track blood pressure, even though I now got an additional blood pressure cuff to measure it properly. After reading Peter Attia's book, Outlive, and also watching a few interviews of him. For the watch bands, I happen to have two for the Galaxy Watch 4. So these are the Galaxy Watch 4 original watch bands, and they also kind of look now fairly similar. This is a little bit bigger. This watch, the Fenix, is a little bit bigger in size compared to this one, but I think most people won't even see it and think it's kind of symmetric. This watch is also a little bit heavier. I think it's around 50 grams, whereas this is around 35 grams or so. Of course, there's an argument to be had that the symmetry when running is then not fully there, but the 20 grams probably don't make the most of the difference.